Okay, Friday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with Wink over here on the east side.
And Justice on the west side of the contiguous United States. That's right, folks. It is Angle of Repose Friday. We've already, we caught Wink in between a yawn there. He had to stifle a yawn.
Pretty much.
Could have been a sneeze, but I don't know. For our purposes, it will be a yawn.
Yeah.
And it is Angle of Repose Friday. Of course, a lot of people think that is the angle in which a granular substance will stay in place on a slope, which is, a surveying term. Or it could be the coefficient of friction, which is the same thing. And, that's in physics. And of course, it could be, for our purposes, the angle in which you recline in your Barca lounger while reading Wallace Stegner's Angle of Repose. There you go.
Indeed.
Yes, it's Friday, Wink.
Yes.
I have to get through all that because it is Friday, because I have all weekend to not do that until we do it again on Monday.
Okay.
But I want to know how you are doing right now.
Not bad. It is 38 and gloomy. It's kind of drizzly out there, overcast, and it's just your basic gloomy October day. But we're going to be in November next week, I think. Yeah, next week we start November. Reminder, get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that and join us there.
I think that officially it is 11 days left until...
Yes.
Just think of it this way. It's like Independence Day, right? Yeah. They moved all of their pieces all over like a chessboard, right? Then they start counting down till, that's right, checkmate. But we have the virus of self-determination, and that's called the electoral process. And our page is dedicated to get out the vote. So please do.
Yes.
Vote early, and then convince somebody else to vote. And if you can convince them to vote, like for the salvation and longevity of the United States of America as a democratic representative government, that would be nice too.
Yeah, would be great.
Right. Well, here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 45 degrees. We're supposed to go up to 64, 65. I don't believe it. We'll see. Now, what we are experiencing, I think a lot of people would consider gloomy. But
yeah.
you know how like the Inuit and other native peoples up around the Arctic Circle, they have 800,000 different words for snow.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So I think we parse down, the kind of meteorological anomalies that are peculiar to our region.
Yes.
Everywhere else, they would call that gloomy. And I don't know. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like it myself. Yeah, I like it.
I guess I would call it. We'll call it brisk. Brisk with an overcast of dark fog. There we go.
Indeed.
Or what you would call gloomy.
Yeah.
But I feel invigorated by it, strangely.
I like it. I do like it. Bring it on.
Well, also remember, Wink, before Halloween. I mean, before the beginning of November is Halloween.
Yes. So it's perfect weather for Halloween. I'll say that. Other than it's a little bit on the nippy side, it could be a little bit warmer.
I don't know. I would suggest don't get warm by wearing that extra layered clown costume.
Yeah,
might be a mistake this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, the weather here, we're supposed to get more rain tonight. We've had rain for a few days. I mean, it stopped and then kind of pounded for a bit. What we call rain. Other people would call it deluge showers, Yep. Where'd all the water from the hurricane come from? Well, that kind of stuff. I mean, we can get some rain, and it's good. Oh, they fixed the, there was a deep power cable buried along the perimeter of where my yard is, and the power company had to come in and dig that up because, we had a power outage Monday late. And, first day of the World Series. Thank you very much for making that memorable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, they have backfilled it. They've fixed the problem, which is part of what they've been doing. They've been upgrading everything, and I know how it works because I used to work for, a major oil company, Gulf Oil. And it was sometimes a fight to get them to do what, I don't know, me in the field in the supervisory position would say preventative maintenance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, well, it's doing fine. We'll fix it when it gets broken. I'm all, no, when things get broken here, it could be bad.
Right.
Hippie college boy. I used to get that a lot. Hippie college boy. And I keep reminding him, I'm a punk.
Exactly.
Stop calling me a hippie. College boy, okay. But college boy was anybody who, I don't know, had more than a semester of junior college when they got back from, their tour of a desk somewhere during Vietnam.
Yes.
So that's kind of how it worked. And I worked with a lot of veterans. I don't want to put them down, but there was a old standby I used to think of as kind of a pejorative, and that was like, they're lucky to have gotten a 8th grade education. Then I realized that whole industry is engineered for basically an 8th grader to do it.
Yes, it is. Yep. Military. Yep.
It's not very complex. Before you open a valve here, you close a valve there.
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
That's right.
You don't. Yep. I got that one mixed up, and that kind of happens, and you got to watch out for it. That's why they put, I guess, the hippie college boy in a supervisory position, because I could tell the difference between closing first, opening then.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh yes.
And it paid way more than teaching.
Yeah, that's the other thing, which is crazy.
And I got with a lot more with those guys than I would have ever been with the little brats I would have had to been teaching.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they're not all brats. Of course, they weren't brats in my idealistic days. It was only afterwards when I realized, God, I was a brat to my teachers.
Yeah.
Hey, these are the incidents in the world that have happened that we have to speak about today, and boy, am I livid. Because I do live in Oregon. I was actually born here. The acquittal of the seditious Bundy bunch is proof of racial double standards and a green light for right-wing terrorism. Hi. You want to commit sedition against the government? There's a federal park right over here. Have fun. God, I can't stand it. Hold me back, Wink. Well, in close collaboration with North Dakota state officials and the extractive industry, that's like mining, fracking, pipeline. All police departments around the country are sending militarized reinforcements to battle those dangerous, non-violent Standing Rock water protectors, while they're praying. Now, I've suggested, why don't we go try to set up some windmills, wind generators and, some other things like that. Solar at the Creation Museum, and beat the crap out of women and children that are out there protesting by singing, We Shall Overcome. Amazing Grace. I don't know. And rather than change the Christian right to, his libertine ways, actually, Trump has actually helped the movement return to its white nationalist roots. Yeah, it's never gone away.
Right.
All right, let's make that clear. And for the last half, it's the Friday News Dump and Recycling Center news that has been repurposed with a purpose. Now, we have to have a nice year. Too bad it isn't in our country. but with the help of anti-corruption voters, like hippie college kids,
Yes.
the Icelandic Pirate Party is set to lead the island government next week. Hoo-hoo. That's right. We're not talking Greens here. We're talking the Pirate Party, wink.
Exactly.
These people make Radio Caroline seem like, well, an offshore radio station and only. Nope. They're taking over, buddy. And I promised I would talk about that rat effer. And it's Friday. So Newsweek's Nina Burley, well, she had a very, very revealing lunch with Grandmaster of Dirty Tricks. And, of course, that's a nice way of saying rat effer. Roger Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been battling this guy ever since, well, I was a kid. All that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar, and more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow on the East Coast with his East Coastal elitism, however subtle it may be, and his name is Wink. And this guy all the way back over here on the West Coast, unburdened, unbridled elitism. I revel in it.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Do not make me philosopher king, because legislating egalitarianism is not fun. Trust me. And my name is Justice, and we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish, because who loves you, baby? Yeah. No, I totally bought into the cult of personality, like Byron, I mean, Byron had a navy. Trump doesn't have a navy. He's a piker. I hate it when people try to be despots, unenlightened despots. Those are a dime a dozen. Come on.
Indeed.
I'm sorry. This is why representative government, in the democratic model, it keeps narcissists like me at bay. And you want that. Don't you? Well, let's get into something serious. Now, I've heard it argued that the defendants were just anti-government people, not white supremacists. And my argument is that, no, actually, that's a factor in it, very much so. Because what they represent here, at least specifically in the state of Oregon, which has a long history of, trying to be a whites-only state.
Yeah.
Is that you cannot discount the city and rural divide and its attendant racism. Okay? And I got to say, in many respects, the only big town is Portland. Let's, call that a city. Small city, big town.
Right.
Still a tweener after all these decades. But, that's another story. It's only moderately, there's still a lot of attendant racism there that exists, too. So it's always been. And I want to make that clear. So the obvious parallels and juxtapositions and dichotomies and ironies of it all are so visibly clear in it. And of course, in critical thinking, you want to make sure that, I don't know. Right now, I just want to rage about it because it really angers me. And let me also say that the acquittal of the Bundys was achieved after they got one juror off of the jury who apparently used the word bias in whatever context. It doesn't matter. Use the word bias and you're out of there. Bias plied tires. I got bias plied tires on my 4x.
Yeah. Gone.
And somebody else on the jury said he used bias. So who's been, I don't know, in my conspiratorial mind, and I don't want to be InfoWars stuff here for the liberals, Democrats, okay? But that's jury nullification terminology, strategies, right? So they get the one person who might have been a critical thinker, like had more than 3 semesters of junior college.
Yeah.
and he worked for, I don't know, part-time for the BLM 30 years ago. Get that guy off the jury. And this is the other thing. I want to know how many people came from town, because they keep calling it a Portland jury. And no, they were called from all over the state. So just keep all this in mind, okay? It's not a Portland jury. It's a jury that's called from all over the state. And I'm sorry, I should have found out what the breakdown was between, well, town and rural divide. But I'm just saying, they send a note to the judge about a juror using the word bias. That's like what jury nullification extremists do. And I'll qualify it by saying, in this reporter's opinion. Okay, there. This story is written by Aaron Gupta out of Raw Story, and there were many even out of the Oregonian, but I think that this synthesizes it well, and also has a journalism on the spot. This person was actually with the Bundys in camp while it was happening. When the Raw Story visited the Bundy bunch inside the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, they were calling for a revolution against the federal government. Rifle-toting supporters said, "I'm here to fight for freedom and get our Constitution back, and I would support this to the death." Literally. Now, 8 months after their occupation came to an end, the government case has ended in a jury acquitting the two Bundy brothers and 5 other supporters on all charges but one, including the main one of conspiracy. The government failed to prove the Bundy bunch had engaged in an illegal conspiracy that kept federal workers, employees of the Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Bureau of Land Management from doing their jobs. Gun-toting, and I'm not talking just the Bundy brothers and 6 others. We're talking about scores. The jury's logic is not known yet, but it is a double standard that almost certainly turns on race. If heavily armed Muslim Americans or Black Lives Matter activists seized public facilities and land, the government would have rushed in with all guns blazing, and anyone who survived would be locked up for life. Well, this is a thought experiment, so, But let's follow him here. The record of post 9/11 terror prosecutions is littered with hundreds of cases of entrapment, paid informants, and fake terror plots. Because those are easy to prosecute. Right? And have you noticed, and we're going to talk about the Standing Rock water protectors. Now, they've come with no guns, right? Nonviolent. Remember Occupy? What was their weapon of choice? A tent.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And what was the response to the people that don't have any, let's call them real weapons? Just for just for purposes of, understanding here, defining our terms. And the military comes in, but you have a small, I don't know, how many are in a platoon? 100 and, what's in a platoon, Wink?
Well, a platoon is generally about 20, 24 people. Usually you break it down to 4, 5, 6 people.
So a division is one that.
Yeah, platoons are small units.
Okay. So a division is what I'm really thinking.
Yeah, about. You got thousands. Yeah.
Well, no, then not that many, but
you got hundreds. If you got a unit like that's run by a captain, it's usually about 100 people.
Well, let's call several platoons.
Yeah.
More streaming in.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
All hearkened to come to this one spot that they've been talking about for a while. And this jury couldn't wrap their heads around a conspiracy. I don't know, I guess. Do we blame the prosecutor in this? I don't know. For more than a decade, the feds have prosecuted similarly flimsy cases against environmental, animal rights, and Occupy Wall Street activists known as the Green Scare. You know, saving the world is obviously some sort of commie plot to take it over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's not poison the water. Oh my God, we have to kill that person. There's a commie in our midst. I mean, this is the fervor that happens in all this. Now, I don't like animal rights activists, taking scientists hostage and blowing up labs, and no, that's uncalled for. But I don't know, water, clean water. This seems like, I'd like to have that. I hate the idea that we're going to go to war over it, but I guess it's inevitable now. Numerous peaceful activists have been sentenced to prison for more than a decade for little more than conversations egged on by paid FBI provocateurs. Even in cases where violence was planned, no one was ever injured, and it was often completely instigated and organized by the government. But when it comes to the Bundys, they actively planned the illegal armed takeover at least 2 months before the refuge occupation began. On January 2nd of 2016, the Bundys visited local Sheriff David Ward and warned him to prevent 2 local ranchers convicted of arson from going to federal prison. According to Ward, the Bundys said they would bring hundreds of people to town and attempt to overpower or overthrow my authority as sheriff. And not only that, the judicial system and the representative government that had been voted in place. Inside Malheur, in a 2-hour conversation with Eamon Bundy in his pickup truck, when this reporter pointed out their intent was to spark a violent uprising against the government, he did not deny it. Militia members openly carried weapons on federal land, which is illegal. And the raw story witnessed the militia stealing and damaging government equipment, violating the law and tearing up sensitive archaeological sites, and building barricades and bunkers for an apocalyptic showdown. The Bundy also set up a kangaroo court to indict, try, convict, and remove government officials from office. Yet, according to the jury, the government did not prove a conspiracy. Meanwhile, halfway across the country in North Dakota, a huge force of police and private security are viciously attacking Native Americans, peacefully protecting their land from the ravages of the oil and gas industry. Oh, well, I'm sorry, you little Native people don't know the idea about what an easement is and a taking. Here, have some beads. Now get out of our way. We're putting our pipeline through.
Yeah.
All right. Fair value. Here, have some beads. But come in with guns, take over the backhoes, dig up sacred sites of, Indian peoples on federal property, on federal land, which is our land. Yeah. Okay, no problem. The Bundy case is more proof of the well-documented racial bias embedded in the jury system. The notion that an armed militia with snipers stationed in the watchtower, blockading all road into the refuge, and vowing to die for their cause did not impede federal workers from doing their job is as absurd as it sounds and is an indictment of the deep racial biases in America. The silver lining is the Bundy brothers and their father still face trial for their violent confrontation in Nevada with government officials in 2014 over their refusal to pay $1 million in overdue grazing fees on federal lands. So what I want to know is what's going to happen when the federal government tries to collect the almost $5 million in damage that the Bundys caused at Malheur, while heavily armed. See, everybody's got to respect the verdict, I know. But I like I said, I like to know the that socio-economic locus breakdown of the jury, because I know it's probably stereotypical to say, oh well, that county, of course they're full of white supremacists because they are, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, how are we going to collect the 4.3? That's actually more than that, but almost 5 million actually. How is that going to get recouped when we're still trying to collect $1 million from this guy that he's been a soft loss since the 90s? Well, the writer goes on and says the Bundy acquittal will embolden violent right-wing militias to seize other public lands, especially west of the Rockies, where there is a movement funded by the Koch brothers to undermine federal control of huge swaths of land. Now, this is, I guess you'd have to say, in this reporter's opinion, rather than this reporter's opinion back here. It's in this particular writer's opinion, but I don't know. It's actually a fact. The Bundy, undoubtedly these violent militias will be aided and abetted by legions of Trump supporters calling for violent revolution. If Clinton wins the presidency as expected, the government's hands-off approach toward the militia movement is a failure. This is not a call for more repression as used against Muslims, African Americans, and left-wing activists. It's a demand that the government protect the public and its lands from the growing threat of right-wing terrorism. And there was a stipulation in court they couldn't be called terrorists because only Muslims are terrorists. Oops. And I don't know. The prosecution, the defense presented their case. And granted, there's people representing themselves and different lawyers. Okay, but that took about 3, almost 4 weeks. And so how long do you think it took the prosecution to cross-examine Wink?
Yeah, a couple
just
days.
Think. Okay. Yeah, that would be, you'd think, right?
Yeah.
Half an hour.
Yeah.
Just saying. Now, how it was argued at the time is that, prosecution's got some jury watchers, and they're saying, I think that they could tell the jury was probably in over their head. And the prosecution determined that with the amount of stuff that had been given to them over the preceding weeks, could obviously be rebutted in a very streamlined fashion, and that's how they did it. Took them about a half an hour, and then they rested their case. So I don't know. Maybe we need like a William Kunstler there to not defend these guys taking over, because this is the thing that's, defense attorneys are saying, well, the jury just saw them as well-intentioned patriots.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they had one juror who said, I don't know, that's not the rule of law. I have a bias for the rule of law. I love America. Oops, you're off the jury. You can't judge a peer if you love America, because none of your peers love America. So yeah, he was acquitted by a jury of his peers. So Oregon used to be a white-only state, folks. Well, this next article is by Sarah Lazar out of Alternate. Today's militarized crackdown on water protectors in Cannonball, North Dakota stems from high levels of coordination between industry, the extractive industry, state officials, and police departments. It was waged against a frontline camp seeking to block the Dakota Access Pipeline, which would cross beneath the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation's main drinking water source and bisect the community's burial grounds. The attack took place under cover of a media blackout, with reports emerging that police were disrupting cellular phone reception. You know, the Bundys got to get on a landline telephone and call.
Yeah.
Think of that.
Yep.
And cell phone stuff. For a month, 6 weeks. Okay. Water protectors have already endured dog attacks, military-style checkpoints, low-flying surveillance planes, invasive strip searches, National Guard deployments, and mass arrests. What's happening today is a travesty on the human rights of indigenous peoples. Tom Goldtooth, the executive director of the Indigenous Environmental Network, told Alternet, "I see this as glaring evidence that law enforcement of this country and the state is more concerned about protecting corporate rights of the extractive industry than tribal nations." Well, he's just saying that to be rhetorical, because he's obviously not naive.
Right.
Because of course that's what's going on here. And if you don't bring guns, that's when they're going to bring that's when they're going to bring everything short of, I don't know, atomic weapons. Maybe they'll save the nuclear weapons for later if things get really rough.
Yeah.
There is evidence of close coordination between the companies backing the $3.8 billion crude oil Dakota Access Pipeline, and police departments, because of course they didn't call it the Wall Street Praetorian Guard for nothing. Oh, NYPD, when they were cracking heads in Occupy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were paid. Those overtime hours, that was picked up by Wall Street. I mean, that should be more of a scandal, but I guess, I don't know. Okay, so they had to supplement. They didn't have enough asset forfeitures to really fund cracking hippies' heads in Occupy. So Wall Street gave us a little fee to, be their security guards. And that's essentially what's happening here. Or, as we used to say back in the old days, union-busting corporate goons.
Yeah.
And some of them weren't off-duty cops. They were still on duty. We have romantic notions of the relationships between government and the private sector and tend to think the old days of police supporting owners of capital, the railroad companies, instead of the workers, are from a bygone era. Professor Peter Kraska said. And he's the author of Militarizing the American Criminal Justice System, the Changing Roles of the Armed Forces and Police. The railroad, let's see. Situations like these show that corporations and energy interests are exercising a monopoly on violence to continue the fossil fuel industry unabated. Well, I'm not saying I'm not sure if I want to democratize violence, but I know what he means. The heavy-handed response does not stem from local coordination alone. The Morton County Sheriff's Department said in a press statement released Sunday that due to escalated unlawful tactics by individuals protesting construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline, Morton County has requested additional law enforcement assistance from other states.
Sure, why not?
An emergency management assistance compact request to states for assistance on October 7th. And they're streaming in, folks. They're bringing in the LRAD. They're bringing in the tanks. Cell phone, electronic device disruptors. Because a bunch of Native Americans are praying to their ancestors to protect their water. And that is what brings in the military. But several platoons of white supremacist, anti-government, seditious mofos take over a bird sanctuary that also is a sanctuary for Native American artifacts. We'll just wait them out. But on the other hand, if you got $3 billion tied up in a pipeline, as police departments around the country send reinforcements to North Dakota, the appeals of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe for federal protection from law enforcement violence appear to have had no effect. In a letter sent to Attorney General Retta Lynch earlier this week, Water Protect asked the Department of Justice to intervene. To many people, the military tactics being used in North Dakota are reminiscent of the tactics used against protesters during the Civil Rights Movement and some 50 years ago, the letter states. But to us, there is an additional collective memory which comes to mind. This country has a long and sad history of using military force against indigenous people, including the Sioux Nation. Because what was Wounded Knee, the massacre at Wounded Knee, about? Yeah, they were praying. And that prayer was deemed a federal offense, and they were deemed with duly. And let me also remind folks that, the family farm comes from around that area, right smack dab in the border between North and South Dakota, and pretty much right smack dab in the middle between the east and west borders. And, at least for fun, they still have signs up in some diners and barbershops, no Indians allowed. And those signs were fairly prominent, when I was still going, judiciously, or not judiciously, but, or not reverently, but that was expected to go work on the family farm. And I did that well into the 80s. So I don't think much has changed, Wink.
Right.
Wow, we're just going way over, aren't we? But it's Friday. We're like reclining in the Barca Lounger. It's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the racism never left. It was just hiding until Trump came along, and this is by Brian Tashman from Right Wing Watch. It will be difficult for religious right leaders to position themselves as the principled guardians of family values after tying their political fortunes so closely with those of Donald Trump. They have given their blessing to a candidate who regularly berates and demeans women, people with disabilities, and racial and religious minorities, who in the past has mocked Jesus and boasted that he never seeks forgiveness, and who seems to completely lack any sense of decency, humility, or morality. Well, he's also confessed, Wink, that he's really not self-introspective because he might not like what he sees. Well, that's one way of dealing with it. I think medical professionals would call that avoidance. And what happens when you practice too much of avoidance? Yeah, that's right. Dissonance will occur. And he's going to have a lot of dissonance on November 9th. Even after a tape revealed that Trump once bragged about sexually assaulting women, religious right leaders stood by him. Well, yeah, they know all about that. I have offended you. Remember that crying performance?
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't know anything about assaulting women. Sometimes they pay them, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes when they don't pay, they got to go in front of national TV and say, "I'll sin against you."
But send me a check anyway.
And the thing is that Trump's not willing to do that, and all these right-wing Christian types here that we're talking about, at least for the purposes of this article, are going, "Wow, man, we like that guy. Look, that's the way to do it. Be unrepentant."
Oh, hell yeah.
Turns Christianity on its head, but that's okay. It is almost as if there is nothing Trump can do that would shock his defenders in the religious right movement, who are counting on a President Trump to appoint hard right Supreme Court justices and sign conservative legislation. Well, I'm thinking they're going to have to make sure that they also speak Russian. Because, you'll have to be sure. In this reporter's opinion. They even seem ready to forfeit years of work attempting to paint the anti-abortion cause as a feminist initiative and to use social issues such as marriage to attract African American and Latino voters. Trump has fallen far behind Hillary Clinton among women and non-white voters, including non-white evangelicals. And that is one thing whenever I, just for journalistic purposes here, when I mention evangelicals, of course, I'm not speaking about the black church. So I want to be clear about that.
Right.
But getting in bed with Trump wasn't as big of a jump for the religious right as some might think. The GOP presidential nominee's appeal to racial sentiments and immersion in the world of far-right conspiracy theories line up quite nicely with the religious right's worldview. Well, yeah. I mean, who buys all those Left Behind books?
Exactly.
I mean, it's porn for them, Wink.
Yep.
In fact, if they could have like a apocalyptic sexual porn, that would, be the best thing that could ever happen.
Oh, hell yeah.
And of course, it goes through, the usual suspects involved here, like Huckabee and Roy Moore and Tony Perkins, and goes back to George Wallace. And of course, we can't forget John Hagee and Pat Robertson. And of course, Jerry Falwell's here all in the mix. Okay. So fortunately, just Trump's rhetoric only appeals to a shrinking share of voters. The religious rights politics are increasingly unpopular with voters who don't see LGBT people and women's rights as civilizational threats. The religious right embrace of Trump will only make it more difficult for them to be seen as credible defenders of the family, but will also prevent them from ignoring the movement's past ties to white nationalism. All right. The full article is, of course, on links at the show diary. And you can find that by going to Daily Kos and, plugging in Justice Putnam. That'll work. All right, let's get Jim Hightower break. We'll come back and go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Kos community calendar. And we got to talk about Roger Stone. I dislike him so much, so we got to give him his due. All right. You're listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Some stories of corporate villainy make me throw up my hands in astonishment, but this one makes me literally throw up. The sorry saga of Wells Fargo systematically stealing from millions of its small depositors is a gag-inducing story of executive suite greed. Start with former CEO John Stumpf, who claimed at a Senate hearing in September to be shocked and, quote, deeply sorry that thousands of his employees had been opening bogus accounts in the names of immigrants, the elderly, and other vulnerable customers, then socking them with fees they did not owe, understand, or even know about. The slick bank chief assured senators that he and other top bosses knew nothing about this mass breach of the bank's code of ethics, blaming low-level employees and firing 5,300 of them. But John, first, weren't you the one squeezing those employees relentlessly to push customers into multiple accounts? Second, how could you possibly not notice a huge crime spree that rampaged throughout your bank for as long as 11 years? Third, what about all those calls that honest employees made to your ethics hotline to tell you personally about the rip-offs? And fourth, while you now cravenly blame your $12 an hour employees for this bank-run mugging operation, some of them sent personal letters way back in 2011 urging you to stop it. Why didn't you? Stumpf didn't act because he was busy stuffing his own pockets with the loot, hauling off more than $100 million in personal pay in the last 4 years alone. He finally resigned on October 12, a move his successor hailed as incredibly selfless. Selfless? He walks away with a $20 million pension and stock worth $109 million. He should be facing a jail term like any other bank robber, not retiring in luxury. This is Jim Hightower saying, excuse me while I go throw up.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Powered by Unity Networks. You are listening to networksradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. And thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York 21 on the East Coast. And our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, thus by extension, the After Show, to span the globe, the universe, and beyond. Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Damn right. Jupiter, man. Juno's there. Instruments are turned on, buddy.
Yeah, it's getting there, getting closer, yep.
Just a camera's going to be, like, put on and warmed up for a little bit. That's going to be fun. Yeah. Oh, I was hearing like rads, like what's the maximum for a daily rad, or is it for a year? Like 5 rads for a year is considered.
Yeah, five for a year, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on Jupiter, it's some exorbitant amount. I think I heard 50,000 rads an hour.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Forget about it. You'd be toast.
Well. And then they wonder, well, I wonder why the computer rebooted.
Yeah.
Well, I have a hunch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar is facilitated as it is every Friday by Smiley Creek, unless it isn't. And her question is, do you got political swag this year? And of course, we always get stuff like signature photographs of like Hillary. My mom's got like several from Obama prominently displayed around the house.
There you go.
So yeah, I don't, no cups. Don't have any cups. Sorry. But I do want to get a baseball cap that says "Make America Nasty Hombre Justice" again.
Yeah.
Because the only way sometimes to compete with these demagogues is, to take on the trappings.
Heck yeah.
And I volunteer.
Yeah, indeed.
No, I don't. All right. Okay. So the San Francisco Cossacks holiday party will be occurring on Saturday, November 19th at 1 p.m. in the wine country town of Windsor. Send Navajo a Cosmail to RSVP. You'll get the address. And then also, she's going to want to know what your potluck item is. And because it is still the voting season, and get out that vote. If you haven't voted already, do. And when you do, get other people to vote. That's all for this week's or this day's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar for today, October 20th of 2016. And also they have a Saturday diary too. So check that out.
Yep. Yeah, they do.
Catalinius, I believe, runs that. All right. So the pirate party is set to lead Iceland. Yes, this by Tom O'Connor from the International Business Times. A nation of Vikings could soon be ruled by pirates. I don't see the problem there. I mean, you could call the Vikings pirates. It's already a nation of pirates, if you ask me.
Hell yeah. Always has been, for the most part, yeah.
Icelandic pirate party is poised to take Iceland's government this week with the help of anti-corruption voters. You got anti-government, white supremacist, seditious juries in the west coast of the United States, and then Iceland. Now, it sounds to me like there are, a bunch of college-educated hippies, if you ask me. Anti-corruption. Don't they know how the world works? Well, the movement was leading in the polls ahead of the country's national elections on Saturday, according to recent data. The polls conducted between October 14th and 15th suggest that over 1 in 5 voters will support the Icelandic Pirate Party in the coming elections. At 22.6%, the party leads the currently ruling center-right Independence Party by 1.5 points. Well, let's hope that polls aren't as manipulated there as they are here. To be a pirate means to allow for the 21st century to enter the legal framework of all citizens that all citizens depend on. Our electoral success means the Icelandic people want change and trust the pirates to lead by ethical example without corruption, Octavia Jonsdottir, who is running for the second seat of the South constituency, told the International Business Times. Among the party's core tenets are the promotion of civil rights, the right to privacy, information transparency, direct democracy, and the right in self-determination. Followers, now known officially as pirates, claim their party does not affiliate with traditional left or right-wing policies, but combines elements of both to focus on strengthening their nation's democracy. The Icelandic Pirate Party broke records in 2013 by securing 5.1% of the vote and placing 3 candidates in the national legislature, becoming the first pirate party, of which there are over 60 around the world, to place members in parliament. If the current figures hold, the Icelandic Pirate Party will have 15 seats after Saturday. Well, the Icelandic Pirate Party's origins can be traced back to another pirate movement which began in Sweden in 2003. The Pirate Bureau, known as the Piratbyrjan, was created in 2003 by a group of Swedish activists in response to establishment of the Swedish Anti-Piracy Bureau, a lobby group that aims to fight file sharing and copyright infringement. The Pirate Bureau became famous for creating the international file sharing network, the Pirate Bay, in 2003. Inspired by the movement, Swedish activist and tech entrepreneur Richard Volkving began the Swedish Pirate Party in 2006 to bring about internet copyright reform on a political level. 6 years later, several prominent Icelandic internet activists, including the party's current leader, Birgitta Jonsdottir, formed the Icelandic Pirate Party. Okay. And they also speak about the Panama Papers. And we all know what that is, don't we? Yeah, bankers and bureaucrats and certain politicos moving money around. We don't want shadow governments, Wink. No. Well, Nina Burley had a very, very revealing lunch with Roger Stone. With the clock running out on Donald Trump's campaign and a catastrophic loss looking more likely, politicos are snickering that the careers of his advisors and strategists will be sacrificed in the process. But at least one of them, legendary Republican dirty trickster Roger Stone, has plans for life after Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Including writing a book about the Donalds. Stone belongs to a breed of cat always found in and around both political parties. Yeah, blame both. Roger Stone is a breed unto himself. And I got to tell you, the people that have mentored under him don't go to the Democrats. I'm sorry. I had to just interject that. Some are well-known public figures who clean up their language for TV. Others steer clear of the limelight off camera. Their favorite word is rat fuck. And their default emotional status veers between satisfaction at revenge served cold and the delicious anticipation of plotting it. Stone has honed his black arts legend for over 40 years, a notorious dandy in bespoke suits and two-tone suede spectator shoes. The 64-year-old is as proud of his hair plugs and bodybuilder physique as he is of his vast, expensive tie collection. He also boasts something else that I must admit gave me a moderately unprofessional and ridiculously juvenile reason for wanting to meet the man behind the legend. I badly wanted to get him to remove his shirt so I could photograph the tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back.
There you go.
And yes, Roger Stone tattooed Richard Nixon's visage on his back. I am not a crook. I'd met Stone twice since the Trump campaign started. One of his favorite Manhattan watering holes, 21 Club, where he was nattily attired in a double-breasted chuck stripe, and once at a bar in Cleveland where he sported a seersucker suit entirely appropriate for leading his threatened Republican National Convention riot in a Midwestern summer steam bath. Seersucker in Cleveland that time of year is not really a good thing to do.
There you go. Yeah.
Neither venue had seemed to offer the proper lighting or really mood in which to ask a man plotting open-class warfare on behalf of Trump to remove his shirt. I caught up with Stone again last week at a posh Upper East Side club that, for the sake of the club's reputation as dignified and nonpartisan, must not be named. He was there to verbally trash Hillary Clinton for half an hour before signing copies of his book, The Clintons' War on Women, which presents Bill as a rapist and Hillary as a murderer. Rat fucking. The standing room only gathering of well-heeled Gotham conservatives lapped up the conspiracy theories as eagerly as a stadium full of Orange County rabble. As he was being mauled by his fans, I managed to sidle over and ask him whether we could meet again. He agreed to lunch the next day, and later texted me to ask me to meet him at his apartment. Score! I had already posted to Instagram his head in front of the posh club's archaic floral wallpaper, and it wasn't going to be long before I could share the other, more fascinating part of Stone with my followers. The half-Hungarian, half-Italian Stone is a Catholic well driller's son who grew up on the wrong side of the tracks in a blue-blooded New Canaan, Connecticut. At age 12, someone gave him a book by Barry Goldwater, and he was working for Richard Nixon before he was old enough to legally drink the martinis he prefers. Well, I guess that Barry Goldwater book would be Conscience of a Conservative. I think they probably should have given him Thomas Merton before the Barry Goldwater. I'm just saying. Among his greatest hits, Stone takes credit for bringing down Client 9, otherwise known as former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, by parlaying intel he got from an off-duty prostitute he met in a sex club into an FBI tip about a Democrat who hired hookers and never removed his socks. Before that, he organized a so-called Brooks Brothers riot in the Miami-Dade County Clerk's office that stopped the 2000 election recount and arguably gave America the presidency of George W. Bush, which I think Stone would probably exclaim, "Score!" Stone and Trump have had a long and fractious relationship. They first met in 1979 when Stone came to New York from D.C. to set up a campaign office for Ronald Reagan in what was then country club Republican territory. Trump found him some cheap office space. Stone later worked for Trump's casinos as a lobbyist in New Jersey. They had a serious falling out after Stone threatened Spitzer's father in phone messages and then took credit for bringing down the governor. After Trump called Stone a cold liar, the two men didn't speak for 2 years. They patched things up, and Stone was on the Trump train as it left the station last year, but he officially worked for the campaign for only 3 months. He disputes the circumstances of his departure. When I resigned, Donald went out and said he was firing me. As with women, nobody leaves Donald. He leaves you. Stone says he quit when Trump insisted he agree not to speak to reporters for a year. Demand Stone likens to asking me to agree to not eat for a year. Boy, I thought I was a megalomaniac. I don't know. Well, this is when I joke about the cult of personality driving folks. I suppose if you have a very weak moral compass and you can't parlay that cult of personality in which, well, to better the world, but it's only for self-aggrandizement,
right?
Then maybe you're doing the wrong thing. And then to cloak it with the idea of, well, we're saving America from itself. No, you want to aggrandize yourself. I mean, there's not much more we need to say about Roger Stone. You get the essential background. He's been around for a long time, and I wouldn't call him just a hack. Nope. Grand messed. That's it. Well, we've got the weekend coming up as we close out our broadcast period here today. And so tune in for some more live talk radio that occurs on Saturday night for the Roundhouse Power Hour with Wink and Rowing Girl. 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. A 1 hour opportunity for live talk radio.
Yes.
And Jibber Your Jabber on Sunday, 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. 2 hour opportunity to jibber your jabber, and your is in all caps, of course.
Yes.
And Week's just there to facilitate it.
There we go.
So call in, and otherwise stay tuned. We've got some great content coming throughout the day, throughout the weekend. In fact, we have great content on Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Well, of course, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink, I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're up.